Hi everyone, Materim here again with another narrative battle report. And this one is a little unusual. My wife is actually bringing out her Orcs and Goblins temporarily into the narrative to help us deal with the story of the Hammerfell Dwarves now that the Warriors of Chaos are gone. So this is going to kind of spin the Hammerfell Dwarves in a new way, but she's playing against me at 1,750 points in a battle line scenario. So let's go ahead and get into the starting narrative. My prince, our scouts have confirmed that the Snowmane tribe have retreated, the dwarf captain said. Then we must quicken our pace. If this is a trick of some kind, I want to reach the ruins of Karak Nor before they turn back, Prince Dorin responded. He was thrilled at the idea that their enemies were in retreat. Finally, the Hammerfell clan were close to returning to the lands of his father, and no longer would the honored dead be defiled by the Chaos Men. The dwarf throng marched quickly towards the ancient entrance to their clan hold. As the army moved, the sound of a catapult firing was heard. Prince Dorin called for his men to stop, and saw that the small projectile would fall short. Suddenly, the projectile had two wings, which allowed it to change course and slam home into his lines. As the dwarfs scattered, Dorin saw the projectile for what it was, a small goblin with a large spike on his head and two leather wings tied to his arms. "Goblins!" he yelled, and as if they were summoned by the sound, a horde of green-skinned humanoids appeared on the slopes and began screaming at the dwarves. "Dawi of the Hammerfell! The Snowmane have left these lands to the predations of the Groby! Come, my warriors! It is time to spill green blood and free the halls of our fathers!" The dwarf throng roared and surged forward. Though they respected their prince, there has never been a dwarf born that needed a talk to prod them into killing greenskins, and the Hammerfells were no exception. Okay, so here is the board. Now this is representing, with the small point total, the advanced dwarf force slamming into the goblins. We have here pretty standard, normal hill, mysterious water, down there is the lake, mysterious forest, normal three-story tower in the middle, and a normal fence there. So pretty open area. I'm looking at this and realizing that I am totally out-deployed. At this point value, I really wasn't looking at the difference in sort of bodies on the field. So I am just hoping and praying that my copters and the shooting can thin down some of these units and make them bite-size, and hopefully we can handle them from there. But that's my plan at this point. Okay, starting off with the goblins, obviously there's a mangler squig there on the side. Next to that is a horde of, I believe it's 40 night goblins. I wasn't ready for this, but there are 3 fanatics in there, I'll find out later. The unit also has a level 2 Night Goblin Shaman in the unit, as well as a Night Goblin Big Boss with the Battle Standard Bearer that for some reason has the Scarecrow banner. I guess she was worried about my gyrocopters. Behind that is a Doom Diver, and next to that is a big bus of Savage Orc Biggins. There's 30 Savage Orcs in there. And with them is a level 2 Savage Orc Shaman with the Lucky Shrunken Head. Next to that is a unit of 5 Squig Hoppers, and with them is the Night Goblin War Boss that is the army's general. It is on a great cave squig and has the biting blade and the armor of silvered steel. Behind that is a unit of 20 normal goblins, and I didn't know until later that there are 3 nasty skulkers in there as well. Next to that is a unit of Squig Herd. There's 24 Squig and 8 goblins in that herd. And behind him is another level 2 Night Goblin Shaman. Okay, so starting on the left of the Dwarf Vanguard force, I have a Gyrocopter vanguarded up. On the back line there is a Gyro Bomber, 5 Dwarf Slayers, a second Gyrocopter without Vanguard, and a unit of 20 Iron Drakes with just a musician. Then you can see a unit of 10 Dwarf Thunderers. They have just a musician as well. Next to that are my Longbeards, a unit of 20 with a musician and a standard bearer. With them is Prince Dorin Oathkeeper, my Dwarf Lord on shield bearers. He has the Master Rune of Smiting, a single Rune of Fury, and a Rune of Might, and his talisman is the Rune of Warding. Now, not a great choice because I forgot the Night Goblin characters don't have high enough toughness to kick off the doubling strength effect, but that's my normal build for him, and since it's my constant character, I figured I'd keep it. Also with that is my Battle Standard Bearer, Barad Goldfist. He has a runic standard with the Master Rune of Groth, One Eye, Rune of Slowness, and a Rune of Sanctuary on it. And then up at the top there on the other side of the lake, you can see my second Vanguard, or my third Gyrocopter. This one also has Vanguard, obviously. And if it wasn't really enough that I kind of got out deployed, the Goblins stole first turn too. So we started that off. The Squig Herd attempts to charge the Gyrocopter. She needed 12, I think, so I just stood there figuring she'd likely miss it. And she did, so she comes up about 6 inches. Then during random movement, the Squig Hoppers try to bounce, and she ends up re-rolling because the character lets her re-roll their random bounce, and she ended up landing the perfect way to be right behind the fence. Now there was a rules question that came up here. Because they are skirmishers, we're not sure whether random movement gets rid of their ability to reform as many times as they want. We played it that it doesn't, so she could reform to go like 3 wide in 2 ranks, just to get totally hidden behind the fence. But if anybody knows, feel free to put it in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Over here, the Mangler Squig comes screaming towards the Gyrocopter and ends up missing by just a few inches, which I'm okay with. As long as the Gyrocopter is not dead this turn, I can just fly around that Mangler Squig, and it's not going to be a huge problem. My hope is to go ahead and get the Gyrocopter behind her lines and use the 5 Slayers to just jump on the Mangler Squig like a landmine, and hopefully that'll work. And then in the center, the Goblin unit, the Savage Orc unit both come up pretty aggressively. The Night Goblin unit basically just tilts a little bit so that the Gyrocopter on that side is within its front arc. She's got short bows in that unit, so I think she's just going to try and put as much shooting as she can at me. So her shooting and magic didn't do anything. So we go into Dwarf turn 1, and I fly the Gyrocopter over. And this is where I was stupid. I should know my wife has an absolute love for fanatics, and even at 1,750 points, she was going to put 3 of them in there. So she does. She drops 3 in there, and since I had to stop at 8 inches, the one went essentially short of me, and then I kept going. And then she chose to basically spread the others around to limit how I'm going to be able to move without taking damage. She put the one basically to maybe get in the way of the Gyrocopter if I went behind her lines, and then she sent the other one towards my Iron Drakes in the front to restrict how far they're going to be able to come up. Over here, I just marched the Gyro Bomber over the Squig Herd, the other Gyrocopter did its bomb drop. I think I killed 1. Oh, and when I did the bomb drop from the other one that triggered the Fanatics, I did do 2 wounds to the Mangler Squig, so I was pretty happy there. And I figured this guy can threaten her Shaman and maybe lower some of the magic down. Now over here, this is about all I had for this center Gyrocopter. I definitely need to start spraying down those Savage Orcs before they come to me, but there was no other way where I could land them that they were going to be out of something's arc. So I'm thinking maybe a Gyrocopter can hold up a horde for a little bit if she chooses to charge me there, and if not, it's 80 points and I can sacrifice that as long as I get a couple of shots off first. Over here, I just moved the Gyro Bomber back because there was no clear way for him to get past without being threatened by the Mangler Squig. and I want him to be back here so he can react a little bit better. The Iron Drakes need to come forward. And oh, I know that fanatic got bombed by the middle gyrocopter when it went over and killed it. So we go. Basically, my shooting did nothing, which was terrible. I don't know that I did any wounds on anything. It was really ridiculous. So we go into Goblin turn 2. She charges with the Horde against my Gyro Bomber. I flee thinking I'm going to be able to bounce through the Iron Drakes, and he falls short. So that just absolutely annoyed me. And over here, the Mangler Squig basically beats me to the punch and does a flying leap on top of my Slayers and kills them to a man. But at least now he's right up against that forest, so I figure if a bad random roll will send him into the forest and kill him, so that may still be worth it. I was kind of hoping it worked the other way around, and I could just throw mine on top of him and kill it, but whatever. And you see over here where the fanatics ended up. The one fanatic did actually go back through my gyrocopter, but failed to wound on the 2 hits it got off, so I was pretty happy there. And the other one's just spinning around here in the middle of nowhere. And so here you see the other hoppers come up. I think the reason the Savage Orcs are up at this point is I think the Savage Orcs actually tried to charge the gyrocopter too, but I rolled just terrible, so the gyrocopter didn't even bounce through my lines. That may be the case. But so my wife has a tendency to put these kind of strange goblin characters, like Lord characters, on the Great Cave Squig, and then just equip him to be a crazy blender goblin. So I am kind of concerned about him just jumping willy-nilly here. On the plus side, it does line me up with a good charge from my Longbeards into that, so I'm hoping I can just go in there, challenge out with my Lord, and see exactly how kitted out she's got him today. Over here, she moves up the goblins to the fence, moves up the herd past it, and tries to run away with her shaman that's back there, but he was march blocked, so he only gets like 4 inches and is still easily chargeable by that gyrocopter on my next turn. And magic was a wash, and shooting seemed to be a wash too. None of us are having good shooting, which is frankly far more worrying to me than it is to her. But she ends up killing one of the dwarf, the iron, or not iron guts, the Longbeards that are in that back unit. But since they're pretty much my only big beat stick, anything that they lose is not good for me. So we go into dwarf turn 2, and I get my first decent thing that happened here. The gyrocopter charges the shaman who flees, and she rolls pretty well, but I rolled double 6s on the flee and ran him down and killed him. So one of her 3 shamans is out of commission, and I'm pretty happy about that. And here you see that my Longbeards with my Dwarf Lord did succeed their charge into the hoppers. I took this picture after rallying too, but the gyrocopter finally rallied. I'm thinking, facing him that way, if the Savage Orcs hit him, they're going to kind of turn to face and then overrun into the Iron Drakes, which I guess is my best option. There's not really a good option to deal with them since I totally failed at shooting. So Gyro Bomber comes over here in movement, drops a bomb, actually hits, and as you can see, looks like it takes out 6 squigs and 2 handlers. So finally my shooting or I guess it's not shooting since it happens in movement, but my Air Force is finally starting to earn some points, which makes me happy. So nothing else shooting-wise. I think I kill 1 more Savage Orc with the other gyrocopter spray. It was pretty terrible. So we go into combat. My Dwarf Lord absolutely brutalizes her general. But then the Squig Hoppers that she's got managed to kill 3 more of the Longbeards before they get iced. So um, that's not terrible, because I mean ultimately, even after they got the 3 killed, I just absolutely slaughtered the rest of the unit. The big problem here is now I don't have any good options. There's no way I can reform to get both the herd and the savage orcs in my front. Oh, and yeah, it was. I mean, it was just messy. So I'm hoping that just my dwarf lord will be able to put some pain in there, and I'll be able to hold. And taking out the or the goblin general is actually pretty strong for me. Things are starting to look good. I'm still real nervous, and I think that she'll be able to do a lot when those 2 units get in, because I just was not able to thin things down. And if she does happen to get a good magic phase on top of that and does some buffs and debuffs, I'm really in a lot of trouble. Alright, so we go into Goblin turn 3, and this picture is showing a lot of stuff happening. So as you can see, the Savage Orcs and the Herd managed to succeed their charge into the Longbeards. The other Goblin unit charges the Gyrocopter. She's going to do kind of a crisscross charge pattern here. And I fled. I was thinking maybe she would kind of move them wrong, and maybe the Goblins would block everything up. And I was pretty safe. I only needed to flee like 3 inches to bounce through the Iron Drakes. So this is where I end up. And then she charges, I think because of animosity, she had to move and charge the Night Goblin horde into my Iron Drakes. But this is how everything turns out. Obviously the Goblins fail. Both of the big units I'm worried about slam into my big combat unit. And the horde makes it into the Iron Drakes. So there's going to be a lot of combats here that I'm not too comfortable with. With the Iron Drakes, I think that's my best shot. I just need to survive this first turn. She's got a lot of static combat res there, and I just need to not break and run. Which for the dwarves is okay. I mean, I've got my battle standard bearer there within 12, and he's got the stubborn rune, so the likelihood that I'm actually going to break here is pretty small, I'm thinking. Provided, of course, that my main block of the Longbeards doesn't just get brutalized. But this is kind of where everything is at the start of her turn. And over here, Fanatics and Mangler Squigs are whirling around, basically not doing anything. So they're not really going to impact much for the rest of the game. So magic and shooting didn't really accomplish much, but as you can see, close combat did. I ended up nobody challenged, because I knew if I had challenged, she would refuse and run her shaman to the back. So we end up fighting it out here. I kill her shaman in the unit, the Savage Orc unit, but in return, she turns around and kills my battle standard bearer. So now that I don't have Stubborn, I need to throw as many attacks as I can into the Squig Herd, so I'm not disrupted, so I can get that combat res. And I did do a lot of damage to the Herd, but the Savage Orcs just brutalized my unit. I ended up not being Stubborn or Steadfast, and needing like a 3 with no reroll. And I failed, broke. The Savage Orcs pursued and slammed into the Thunderers. The Squig Herd pursued and caught and destroyed my unit, including my general. So, this just got messy. I think I'm in an awful lot of trouble here. And so over here, I kill, 8 Night Goblins. She kills 3 of the Iron Drakes, but because of all the static combat res she has, it ends up being a push. So I'm feeling okay there. I think with the grind I can win this. I'm just worried that the big old Savage Orc unit there on the side is not going to give me the chance to grind. I'm hoping, though, with if I can reform on my turn, which is about to happen, reform this Gyrocopter, maybe he can block in the way and keep some stuff off of the side of the Iron Drakes until they're finished dealing with those Night Goblins. which would have been an awesome plan if my gyrocopter didn't roll double sixes for his leadership check and flee off the board. So I think he realizes how bad this is going to get and was ready to get the hell out of Dodge, and he did just that. And so you see here, the two gyrocopters in the back are just repositioning themselves to spray. I think this might even be after shooting, because it looks like I've already killed several of those goblins. And obviously I didn't do any damage to the Doom Diver, so I'm thinking I'm going to have to charge in there and kill it. Then in combat, the Savage Orcs killed all but one of the Thunderers, who turned and ran, and they caught him and ran him down and end up in the position you see here. I'm kind of hoping, at least that's, I mean, at this point I think she won't, with the way it works, she won't be able to turn around and get another charge back on the Iron Drakes for like till turn 6, so I'm hoping that'll actually be the case and the Iron Drakes might survive at this point. So over here, the Iron Drakes just light them up and end up beating the crap out of the herd and the horde, sorry. The Night Goblin horde breaks and they get run down. So we go into Orc and Goblin turn 5. She turns the swift reforms the Savage Orcs and moves them up to here. You can see those 4 little goblins that are remaining after being shot all apart by the gyrocopter. Ends up moving here to try and block. They would have gotten a little closer, but they were march blocked by the gyrocopters, so I thought that was pretty good. I still have enough room to spin around and face the Savage Orcs here on my next turn. Over here, the Mangler Squig hits the other Fanatic and they kill each other. And here, during shooting, her Doom Diver finally hits something again for only like the second time the game, and again kills a single model. So here's Dwarf turn 5, and here I think I make a couple of mistakes. I decide, because my shooting has just been awful, and I don't want to get rear charged, to charge the Gyro Bomber into the back of that 4-man Goblin unit. I'm thinking, you know what, I'll just kill him, break them, run them down, that'll be good. I also charged my other gyrocopter into the front of the Squig herd, which is very small at this point, but I'm thinking I need to not have them come into the flank of the Iron Drakes after I spin around. What I probably should have done instead of charging him is just parked him like an inch away and hoped for the best, but I was getting my tail kicked so bad at this point, I don't know that I was thinking straight. And then in the back, I do finally charge that gyrocopter into the Doom Diver, trying to snag up some late points. And this is just a better shot to remind myself that I charged the Doom Diver there. And then the Iron Drakes swift reform and open fire on the Savages. I think I take 4 out. I mean, it was really kind of a piss-poor execution from them. So that's still a significant number of Savage Orcs that are going to slam me in the face. So during close combat, the gyrocopter at the top does kill the Doom Diver, so I was super happy about that. And so here is when I learn about the nasty skulks. They pop out, manage to do a wound to the Gyro Bomber, and because they pop out, they give the goblins a rank. I won by 1, but they were steadfast, so they don't break, and they succeed their reform check to turn around and face me, and now I'm basically being blocked up by, like, goblin skulkers. And then over here, the Squig herd just eats this gyrocopter for lunch. Again, I'm really kicking myself for going in there. I really should have stopped like an inch ahead, but I don't know ultimately if it would have affected much of anything as far as how things are going here. But that's 100 points that I shouldn't have just thrown at her. And so, top of Goblin turn 6, the Savage Orcs slam into the front. My stand and shoot manages to kill, I think, 2 or 3 more. And the Squig herd slams into the side. It's a bad day to be Iron Drakes. All I can hope for at this point is just some amazingly good rolls with their armor and their ward saves, and pray that they don't break. because I'm not steadfast here, and I'm not going to be able to bring enough attacks to bear to thin down the squig herd in any significant fashion. And as you can see, that hope was totally dashed against the rocks. I killed 3 savage orcs, and that was it. They beat me down to a very small number of iron drakes, break me, and catch me. The squig herd did not feel the need to pursue. And yeah. So I've got just a couple of gyrocopters, or a gyrocopter and a gyro bomber on the board. It's not looking good. And then in this fight, we totally bounce again. My gyrocopter can't, or my gyro bomber can't do any damage to the goblins, but I'm armor saving everything they're throwing at me, so we bounce again. And since I've pretty much lost this game anyway, Dwarf 6, I figure I charge the gyrocopter into the Savage Orcs. Maybe I'll get a Hail Mary, because mathematically speaking, if I had breezed them with the steam gun, I wasn't going to kill them all. So I was thinking maybe I might win. But at this point, I was just doing it to throw some more dice and see what happens. And for those of you who are curious, what happens when you throw Savage Orcs up against a gyrocopter is that a gyrocopter dies. I took out 1 Savage Orc and they beat him to death. The Gyro Bomber managed to take out 1 more Goblin, but took another wound in its place. I think I lost combat, but I held. And so here is just what the final shot of the battlefield looks like. The only thing I have left alive on the board is a Gyro Bomber at 1 wound at the end of 6 turns. As the relief force came upon the battlefield, it was clear that they were too late. The Goblin army had retreated into the deeper tunnels, abandoning the upper levels of Karak Nor, and leaving the shattered remnants of the dwarf vanguard behind them. Greta Grunwald searched the field, desperately seeking signs of her betrothed, Prince Dorin, Oathkeeper. As she pushed aside the dead and wounded, she came upon the badly beaten form of Barad Goldfist, the prince's bannerman. "Where is Dorin?" she said as she lifted his head from the ground. The bannerman pointed feebly. "He slew the goblin leader, and shielded the Longbeards from the fury of the savage orcs. Then I was struck down. I did not see where he fell." Greta left Barad in the hands of the clan's healers and continued to search the field. It seemed like hours before she came upon the broken form of her love. His Grommel armor was battered and split by the force of the orc choppas, and he seemed to be lying in a veritable sea of blood, both red and green. Greta sunk down beside her prince and sobbed. Little did she notice his eyes fluttered open. "Don't weep," he said weakly. "Dorin!" she grasped and embraced him, not noticing the spasm of pain her actions caused him. "You're alive!" "Perhaps," he coughed, "but I do not know for how much longer. Find Debrin First Forge now." Greta called for Debrin, who hurried to the side of his prince. As the Rune Lord saw the extent of the prince's wounds, he knew, as did Dorin, that they were fatal. "I am here, my prince." "Debrin," the prince wheezed, "the Hammerfell line must not be broken, and I fear that I have short time remaining." The Rune Lord nodded. "I understand, my prince." He took Greta's hand and placed it in Dorin's, and wrapped them in a cloth marked with the symbol of Valaya. "Greta of the House of Grunwald, do you bind yourself forever to the House of Hammerfell, and take Dorin as your husband and mate for all time?" Greta's face glistened with tears, both of love and of sorrow for Dorin. "I do." "And Dorin, do you take Greta as honored wife, to protect and shield until the mountains themselves crumble?" "I do," the prince responded, coughing up a small bit of blood. "Then I pronounce you one heart, one soul, and one flesh." "May long you live together." Debrin's voice cracked slightly at the last part of the ancient rite. Dorin grabbed Debrin's hand. "Quickly now. The marriage tent must be raised around us." I can feel the call of my fathers, and will soon heed it. But I cannot go without the future of the Hammerfell secure. As Debrin left to get the tent, Dorin looked into Greta's eyes. I am sorry for this, my love. I had wished that our first time together would be sweeter, and our lives together longer. His words were broken by a coughing fit that left him trembling. Greta held him until he regained control. Do not worry, my love. To be with you now is all I want. I shall love you in this place as if it were the hallowed halls of Valia herself. And once the Hammerfell seed is within my belly, I shall lead your people home. And when the fruit of our union comes of age, he shall be told of the valor of his father, and how he faced his last moments of life fulfilling his duty to his people. The dwarves then returned and raised the marriage tent, and Greta fulfilled her oath to Dorin, as is only fitting of the new queen of the Hammerfell. So, pretty significant victory for the Orcs and Goblins. I should have known that the first time I asked my wife to come and play in one of the narrative games that she was going to kick my teeth down my throat. And this certainly spins the narrative in a way I did not expect. So, be interesting to see where the Hammerfell clan goes now that Dorin is dead and that Greta is the new lord. As far as my list goes, I still haven't figured out how to make dwarves work at low point values. I think under 2,000 points, they're hard to play. Now, maybe I went a little too heavy on the Air Force compared to my wife going heavy on bodies, and that definitely had some impact. I felt that. But I don't know. I think the dwarves need a higher point value to really shine, because they need several things to make them decent, and you need to have the different levels of support and synergy, and I just didn't have that in this list. Other than that, Savage Orc Biggins are rough. But my wife's list was awesome, and I underestimated a few things and ended up getting burned for it. I think the big thing that got me, I don't know that there was anything other than the list design tactically that I did wrong, but the fact that my shooting just could not wound. I wasn't hitting anything, I wasn't wounding anything, and I needed to thin those units down before they hit me, and I didn't do that. And the problem is the short range of the Iron Drakes don't let me hang back at the back edge and do that. I have to have them up so that they have a chance to hit anything. So, of course, then I need my combat blocks up a little further so that they can support once the Iron Drakes get charged and that sort of thing. So, I definitely think the Iron Drakes are not something to take at low point values at all. I love the 20-man unit of it, but I think it's better at 2,500 points plus. But all in all, I appreciate you guys watching. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe, make any comments that you'd like. I don't, just to go ahead and warn you, don't expect the Orcs and Goblins to be a major part of our narrative. My wife just did me a favor to play this game in the narrative so that we could figure out where the dwarf story is going now that our Warriors of Chaos player is gone, who was their primary antagonist. So now that the Hammerfells have reclaimed the upper layers of levels of Karak Nor, they can look for more enemies and get in other narrative fights. But the Night Goblins have retreated to the lower levels, so I'm not completely ruling out getting in another game against them. Depends on how the wife feels. But definitely, I appreciate you guys being subscribers. I don't remember if I mentioned this on the last video, but we are up to over 400 subscribers now, so it's very, very exciting for me to see how the channel has gone and how you guys obviously very much like the narrative battle report style, and I'm going to keep bringing them to you as long as as we keep being able to get videos or getting battles in and having the time to do videos about them. So, again, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will catch you next time.